Good morning, everybody. My name is Jackie Linton. I work for NHS Horizons Group. I'm part of NHS Improving Quality here in England, and I'd like to welcome you to the School for Health and Care Radicals. We're about to start, so I'm going to be chairing, and I'm delighted to be chairing this first webinar, which is the start of 5 modules. So welcome to Module 1. Being a Health and Care Radical. Change starts with me. So our school opened to registrants on the 6th of January. That's just 25 days ago, in fact. So we've got nearly 1,000 people who've registered, and that's like 40 people every day. So thank you for joining. So we want to do a roll call, and obviously with so many people we can't do that individually, but we've got over 26 countries who are represented today. So we're just going to acknowledge all of those countries right now. So we have Australia, Belgium, Canada, Czech Republic, Denmark, we've got England, France, Germany, Ireland, the Netherlands, New Zealand, Norway, Northern Ireland, the Philippines, Saudi Arabia, Scotland, Spain, Sweden, the Ukraine, United Arab Emirates, USA, and Wales. So, absolutely global, fantastic community of change agents right across the world. Welcome to everybody. If your country is not represented, could you add it to the chat, because we don't want to miss you out. So, why the School for Health and Care Radicals? Well, I'm sure that when you joined up for this webinar today, that you might or you might not have seen yourself as a radical. And we know that everybody might have signed up for their own personal reasons. But I think what really brings us together is the passion and the willingness to take responsibility for change. And we know that big change in health and care only happens because of heretics and radicals. And we're going to hear a bit later what happens to heretics. And I think we can all identify with being a change agent, and that can be really tough at times, especially when other people don't want to change, or they don't get it, or they don't share the same purpose as you, or the change that you're involved in. So the school is here to support those goals and all of our health systems, and change, and also change the existing thinking and the practice to improve care for people, and that's really what is at the heart of the school. So all the resources that are available, we hope that they will start this community of kind of sharing ideas, making connections in this community of radicals where we support each other to thrive and survive as positive change agents. So the last slide before I introduce Helen Bevan to you is I really wanted to introduce you to NHS Change Day. And all of you will have been touched by Change Day at some point, even if it's just the fact that you had to register for the school via the Change Day website. And so I just want to take just a minute to introduce Change Day to you. It's a grassroots movement. It's led by the front line, and it really unites and harnesses the passion of frontline staff who really want to make a difference. And that difference is about how we can think differently about change, whether it's taking a small step or a big step to make a difference to patient care. And as a movement, we invite anybody to make a pledge. And a pledge is just a promise to yourself to do something that can make care better, or improve your practice, or your knowledge, or the culture. And last year we had 189,000 pledges. It was an absolutely fantastic response to an experiment that that we're really doing here in the UK. And the pledges range from smiling with patients, spending a day in a wheelchair, nurses being patients for the day, departments pledging to improve safety across a whole hospital, or whole organisations, like one organisation, a local hospital here in the UK, that set up a guardian service which has improved staff reporting of concerns by 30%. So this massive kind of unleashing of energy has created this kind of spread right across not only England, but other countries have now started Change Day. So the School for Healthcare Radicals is very much a part of Change Day. And it's one of the key issues that we learned was about staff feeling that they needed permission to get involved, and you'll hear a lot more about that later. So I'd like to start us now with our first module, but also for us to think about, as we go through the module, to think about a pledge that you might be able to make. We've created a campaign pledge for our community, and I'll share with you the instructions for that later as to where you can find that. But just be thinking about the module and what pledge you can make related to the module, so that we can hold ourselves to account, I think. So I think that's all from me for now. So I'd like to introduce you to Helen Bevan, who leads the NHS Horizons Group, which is part of NHS Improving Quality. Welcome, Helen, and over to you.
Thanks, Jackie, and good morning, everybody. It's fantastic that so many people have signed up for the school. So I'm going to be the person that you hear the most today. And my job on this webinar is, first of all, to just kind of give some context and talk about the learning process, and then take us into the heart of the topic about what it means to be a health and care radical. Just carrying on from what Jackie was saying, I want to talk a little bit about, how we join in, because we've never done anything like on this scale and this kind of way before. So the School for Health and Care Radicals really is an experiment, and like all tests of change, I think some things will work well and other things will work less well, and we have to learn and we have to do that together. But we come together as a body of change agents who love our health and care systems, but think that there's things we ought to be doing in better ways. And we want everybody to contribute. So first of all, to say, please use the chat box to contribute continuously during this web seminar. So any ideas that you've got, any resources, anything you want to contribute, please keep chatting. We're also tweeting and during this web seminar, and it's great to see some of the tweets happening already. And we've actually got a tweet monitor during the web seminar today who will be coming in to tell us what is happening out there on the Twitter sphere. And if you're going to tweet, can you use these two hashtags? Use the Change Day hashtag and also SHCR chat. What we're going to do is every week we will produce a summary of the discussion using Storify, and we will put that on the Health and Care Radical website. And we've got a chat during the module today, on our chat panel. But that conversation, we want it to continue throughout the life of the School for Health and Care Radicals, and that chat forum is live. Lots of you are adding content to that already, which is great, and that's the web link there. We'll be writing to you again this afternoon with a lot more detail about the resources and the links, and we'll be taking you through the link for the Health and Care Radicals forum. So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to cover in the web seminar today. We started to talk about the background to the school. We're going to then move on to talking about the actual learning processes that we will cover. Then we get into the meat of the content of the first module. We're going to talk about some of the context in which we operate as health and care radicals and how the world is changing. we're going to talk about some of the challenges for health and care radicals, and as we all know, as change agents, there are many. We want to talk about the difference between a radical and a troublemaker. We think it's a very important distinction. And then we're going to talk about tactics to thrive and survive as a radical. At the end of the web seminar, we want to reflect on some questions, and going back to Jackie's earlier point, we want to think about how we might be called to action, because it's great, having this opportunity to learn together, but really what matters is the difference that we make as a result. So when you signed up for the School for Health and Care Radicals, we asked you, what were your motivations in signing up? Why are you taking part? And I just wanted to give some examples and summarise some of the things that you said. And some of these are so inspiring. So why did you join the school? And these are just some of the quotes. I want to be part of changing the NHS or my healthcare system and learn how to be more effective as a change agent. I want to learn how to implement change more effectively. I want to help others realise that they're able to make changes without having to have permission. And again, as Jackie said, we'll come back to that because that's been such a big issue for us around NHS Change Day. And I want to network with other healthcare radicals. And some of the other reasons, I want to learn to gain more inspiration and continue and courage to continue what I started. I want to share my joy at taking part in NHS Change Day. We like that. I want to share, be inspired and inspire others to coach and support, and so that we can be the best that we can. The next person here is clearly thinking outcomes, which is great. I want to drive quality improvement, promote harm-free care, make the improvement sustainable, and remember patients are at the centre of everything we do. And finally, I want to spread change in a stealthy way. I like the word, stealthy, and it's just like making me think about, stealth bombers, kind of, this deadly but effective force for change. So yeah, I really like that one. So, as we all know, we have 5 modules over the next 5 weeks, and it is all geared up to moving towards the start of Change Day. So today it's about change starts with me. Next week, we're going to talk about forming communities and building alliances for change, because if there's one thing we know about being an effective health and care radical, we can't do it on our own. The most effective health and care radicals build alliances, mobilise other people. On the 14th of February, we're going to talk about rolling with resistance. So, ideas and tactics of what to do when other people don't see the change is necessary in the way that we do, and people are resistant to change. On the 21st of February, we're going to talk about making change happen and some really practical ideas and tips around that. And then finally, we're talking about moving beyond the edge. One thing that lots of health and care radicals say, that we do feel like we're a little bit on the edge. We feel that we're out of the ordinary. So, how do we actually, how do we move beyond that? So that's our programme, and I hope that you'll be able to join us for all 5 of the modules. And again, if you can't join in real time on Fridays, the modules will be repeated. I just wanted to say a little bit about the genesis of this school, because it isn't something that we kind of dreamed up a few weeks ago. Actually, it's part of an approach and deep reflection and action around change that's been happening for actually a very long time. So the genesis of the school, and actually the very first iteration of it, was in 2002. And actually, I was working at the time with Professor Paul Bate and Glenn Roberts, who are 2 academics who really understand social movement thinking and the potential of it. And we actually ran a 1-day course called A 1-Day School for Organisational Radicals. And that was in 2002. And that was, really at a time when we were starting to think about social movement principles and how we might apply those to health, particularly at that point, healthcare improvement thinking. So really, there was a movement from 2002, 2003 onwards, which was, what can we learn from the great social movement leaders? Those leaders who typically had no resources in a conventional sense and no power, and yet were able to take action to change the world. How could we as change agents, learn from those ideas? So that carried on for a long time, 7 or 8 more years. I think our work took a real step forward in 2010 because we met leaders from the community organising movement, people who across the world were mobilising and organising to make change through communities, and particularly practically from 2010 onwards, we were able to learn, a lot more really key principles and apply those to our work as healthcare improvement leaders. And that led to the next iteration in 2012, which was called the School for Healthcare Radicals at that time. But we were starting to pull together programs that combined these principles that we were learning about community organising with reflecting deeply about our role as change agents. I think things really changed last year with NHS Change Day, and the fact that it was possible to mobilise so many people, as Jackie said, to get to see 189,000 pledges. That would make a difference to the experience and outcomes of change for our patients, and a real sense of this incredible movement of health and care radicals that was growing. And that kind of brings us to the kind of the buzz, of where we are now, 2014, the School for Health and Care Radicals, and look over time at how the name has changed. And when we first started in 2002, it was called organisational radicals. It was very much focused on people inside organisations, people in paid employment, doing change jobs, wanting to change from inside of their organisations. And what became clear over a period of time was actually calling this organisational radicals actually excluded an awful lot of people, because what we learned was you didn't have to be employed or work in the system to be a radical. So we changed it to healthcare radicals. And then what we found was that we were meeting a lot of people from social care or people working at the interface between health and care. And so again, we wanted to use the term that would include everybody that was part of this movement. So now we have the School for Health and Care Radicals. So and what we want to do over the next 5 weeks is kind of share some of the learning that we have that we've acquired over that period of time, but also take learning from this incredible movement of change agents that have signed up for the School for Health and Care Radicals. So as Jackie said, the #1 issue when we evaluated NHS Change Day 2013 was this issue about permission. So, here we have the local leader of Change Day saying, honestly, go ahead, make these changes. And so many people saying, can I really do it? Have I got permission? Will I be allowed? Will I be allowed to make change? So in a sense, that's the kind of that's the inspirational cartoon of NHS Change Day and the inspirational cartoon for this module. And actually, this cartoon will be reappearing later in the presentation. What I'd like to do now is I'd like to hand over to Pip Hardy, and Pip is part of our team that's pulling together the School for Health and Care Radicals, and is a real is a wonderful coach around learning processes. And Pip's role with regard to the School for Health and Care Radical is to be our learning coordinator and make sure as well as we can that we're creating a learning experience. And I was just going to hand over now to Pip to tell us about some of the principles of learning that are underpinning the School for Health and Care Radicals.
Good morning, everybody. It's amazing to see so many people here and from so many different countries. Really what I wanted to say was that we're all here to learn together. For us, this is a bit of the beginning of a journey. Well, not quite the beginning, as Helen has explained, but this is the first time to run the School for Health and Care Radicals in quite this way. So we're hoping to learn as much from you as hopefully you will from us, and I think that's already becoming clear from the chat, in the chat box. So it's fantastic to hear some of your ideas. Health care radicals and constructive disruption are amazing ideas. So we're really hoping to build a community of learning and a community of practice. It looks like we've made a good start with so many people on board. And we're hoping that you'll also take a look at the module study guides, which are posted on the website, and the links are all over the presentation. We'll be sending them out. So there'll be something for you to take away and hopefully give you some food for thought after we've finished. We really hope that you'll write in them, share your ideas, record your ideas so that you may be able to contribute in later sessions like this. And I think most of all, we really hope that this learning experience will be enjoyable and even delightful. And I think so far we're certainly finding that. So keep chatting, keep tweeting, share your experiences and enjoy the learning.
Thank you, Pip. So just carrying on from that, just a little bit about what the school can offer and what you might do. So we've got these 5 learning modules, as we said, so live on Friday mornings and available for download, whenever we want to see them. We've got a whole series of different materials which are now live on the website. We've got a beautiful prospectus and we've got the weekly study guide, and the study guide will be going up every week, the day before, to back up the modules and to give you some important questions to reflect on. And one thing we're going to test is a weekly telephone discussion on Sunday evenings. We're going to do it this Sunday and see if there's a demand for it. But it's an opportunity for anybody that wants to, either who was on the live web chat or watch the film, to be able to take part in a discussion more deeply about the issues. We're going to run a weekly tweet chat on Wednesday afternoons at 4 p.m. and what we'll be doing is we'll be talking on the particular Wednesday about the topic that we talked about on the module on the previous Friday. We've set up a chat forum that's live, and a number of you are chatting already on that, and please do that. We've also got the potential to link you or your group with a mentor. As Jackie said earlier on, we've got 90 colleagues, fantastic people, really experienced change agents from all over the world who have agreed to be volunteer mentors, and we'll come back to that a little bit later on. So those are the things the school can offer. So what might you do? Okay. We'd say take part in this program at whatever level engagement you want. So some people will just take the slides and read them, and that's great. Other people will get really engaged and self-organized. And so whatever works for you, we're happy with. You might want to encourage other people in your organisation or your locality to join the school. And it's great how many of you are actually setting up your own little cells or chapters of the school in local settings. So yes, think about how you create your own local learning set or group or however you want to do it. Then think about how you join the Change Day movement and mobilise other people, because we have set up the School for Health and Care Radicals because of Change Day. It's here to support Change Day. It's here to support all of us to be more effective change agents and make a difference through Change Day. And then what we're also offering is for those of you that complete all the modules and connect them with your Change Day pledges and take the action that you pledge to take for Change Day, that we're actually creating a certification process, and we'll tell you more about that shortly. In addition, we've asked for continuing professional development points for those of you that are medics in Britain through the Academy of Medical Royal Colleges, and that process is ongoing, and we'll let you know the outcome of that. So that's all the background, kind of learning processes, where we are, and what we're going to do now is we're going to start the actual content of Module 1 about being a health and care radical. Change starts with me. So the first thing that we wanted to talk about to kind of put things in context is what's happening out there in the wider world. And what this slide does, hopefully, is to kind of summarize what we see in terms of emerging trends. So I've worked in the world of improvement and large-scale change for nearly 30 years. And, you know, what I'd say, it seems to me the world is really changing. You know, that change processes are happening so much faster. People are connecting with each other in such different ways. And we hope that the School for Health and Care Radicals, you know, really catches that spirit. And what I wanted to do here was to contrast what are some of our more dominant approaches for going about change in health and care and what we see as being the emerging direction. Now, what's important is that we don't see this as moving from like A to B, because I think that the dominant approach is alive and kicking. But this emerging direction, I think, offers many, many opportunities for us as health and care radicals. So let's just talk about this very quickly. So in the dominant approach, you know, power is through hierarchy. The most powerful people are the people who are at the top of the organisational system. But the emerging system is one where power comes much more through connection, and you know, the people that we're able to connect with. The dominant approach, we look at our organisations and we think about the mission and vision of our organisation. But you know, change needs to happen on such a big scale. We're going beyond individual organisations, and more the focus is on shared purpose. So whoever we are, whether we're a patient or a carer, we're a frontline member of clinical staff, or we're a senior leader, or a leader in social care. You know, what unites us, what brings us together, what is our shared purpose? We come from a world which is about making sense through rational argument, through data, through rational decision making, and the emerging direction is much more about making sense through emotional connection, connecting at the levels of values and emotions. We come from a world where innovation is largely top-down, leadership-driven. You know, we're in a situation where our organisation needs to radically change the way that it delivers care to be able to provide what we need to provide within the resources available, and that's a very kind of top-down driven movement. Whereas the world is changing to a focus much more on grassroots-driven kind of viral creativity. Many of the tools and techniques that are available to us as health and care change agents have been around for a very long time, and they're very well tried and tested. You know, when I think, for instance, about my own background as a quality improvement leader, that many of the classic quality improvement techniques have been around for over 100 years. They're adapted, but the basic principles have been around for a long time. Whereas the new world, I think, is much more, in addition, about open approaches, because we're able to connect with others, about sharing ideas and data, co-creating change, and a situation where the people that are the best, most effective change agents aren't necessarily the people with the most years of experience. And finally, I'd say, we come from a world that is very transactional. When we think about some of the ways that our health and care systems have led change, it's through contracting mechanisms, it's through performance management agreements, it's through holding people to account, and those things are transactional things. Whereas I think the world that we're moving towards is one where change is much more about relationship. It's about connection. It's about making changes together. So, you know, I think that let's think about this and what this means for us as leaders of health and care. I just want to show you, just as background, a couple of articles or emerging ways of thinking that I think really demonstrate this new world. So the first one comes from John Kotter, and he's got a new book that's coming out in the spring, and it's called Accelerate. And for those of us that have got, you know, that have been to kind of business school, when we do a course on change management, you know, the kind of thing that we get taught is John Kotter's 8 steps for change. And, you know, it begins with build a guiding coalition, you know, create a sense of urgency. 8 things, 8 steps to take in order to, for organisational leaders to create change. And, you know, what's interesting is that John Kotter is now saying 8 steps for organisational leaders to create large-scale change isn't enough, because the world that we're operating in now means that hierarchy and creating change through organisational systems, you know, just isn't enough. And on its own, hierarchy, first of all, is incredibly risk-averse, and it isn't creating the kind of change that we need at the speed that we need it at. And I think it's interesting if you look at the diagrams at the bottom of this page. You know, what we can see here is like a hierarchy. It's designed for division. It's actually designed to kind of keep people apart and manage work in doable chunks, versus a network which is actually designed to connect people up. And what John Kotter says is that we need both. You know, that he talks about dual operating systems where, you know, we work with the levers of hierarchy, but we have to build networks. And unless we also create networks, then radical change isn't going to happen. And there are some really big implications of this. The first one is that we need to create many change agents. You know, people across our organisations and across our systems and our communities need to be change agents, not just a few people with a designated position. It also means changing our mindset, because people, if we're going to work through networks, have to want to do change, not have to do change like we often feel we have to in a hierarchy. And what that means is that as change agents and as leaders of change, we have to work with the head and the heart, and not just thinking kind of rationally and logically through the head. One more kind of piece of interesting knowledge I want to show you, and then we'll have some discussion. This is an article that appeared in the July and August 2013 edition of Harvard Business Review, written by 2 Canadian researchers, Batalana and Casciaro, and it's called The Network Secrets of Great Change Agents. And what these 2 researchers did was that they went into a very big organisational system and followed 68 change initiatives around that big system. And what they did was to analyse, you know, what really made a difference when it came to change. And surprisingly for many people, the organisation that they studied was the British National Health Service. They followed 68 projects around the NHS and came to a number of conclusions, but I think these are 2 of the most interesting ones. So the first thing that they concluded was being an effective change agent was really very little to do with positional power or where I was in the hierarchy. Actually, the thing that mattered the most when it came to being an effective change agent was how central I am in the informal network and the connections that I have with other people. Second thing that they identified was to say that the kind of network we work in determines the extent of the change that we're going to create. So if we want to create change that's incremental and small scale, then we should work through what they call a cohesive network. And a cohesive network is people like me. So cohesive networks are like GP to GP or nurse to nurse or manager to manager. But if we're the kind of change agents that want to create really big change, then what we've got to be able to do is to create bridge networks, okay? Our job as change agents is to bring together groups who are currently disconnected. So I think for us as health and care radicals, there are some really great messages in that article, which is, you know, if I want to be a really great change agent, then I should not think about where I am positionally, but how I can influence. And also a big part of my job as a change agent is connecting people who aren't already connected. So we're just gonna start a discussion now, and I'm gonna hand over to Pip. What I just wanted to do in the meantime is to first of all to hear from our colleagues who are monitoring the chat, and also to see how we're doing on the tweets. Okay, so let's go first. So Jenny, you've been monitoring the tweet chat. What are we hearing?
Morning, everybody. Well, the first thing, Helen, which I think is quite amusing, is that we don't necessarily like the term tweet monitor.
Okay.
So maybe we're going to go with insight seeker instead. But great energy on Twitter already this morning. People are loving the range of ways to engage. Richard Kotter in particular pulling that out. Great sense of kind of anticipation, people feeling inspired by the movement generally, but also by you personally. People already pledging.
Fantastic.
And talking about pledge, do, change, inspire. A bit of energy around the Stealth Care Radical business, and a suggestion of a new hashtag Stealth Care Radical. So we quite like that.
Yeah, I like that.
Connections back to Florence Nightingale. Was she the first radical? So, you know, maybe it's been around for a while. And then some energy, which Liz Carter was pleased to hear about, all around mentoring, and people really impressed with the fact we've got over 90 mentor and coach volunteers, and some requests for connecting up.
Brilliant. And again, you know, we'll be sending a lot of information out again this afternoon. So if you want to mentor, if you want to get access to the resources, all the links will be coming in an email this afternoon. So how are we doing on the chat? So Liz, can we hear you?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Great. Yeah, loud and clear. That's great. So Liz,
Hi.
tell us what we're hearing on the chat.
There's loads of really interesting stuff on the chat. First of all, lots and lots of people forming their own groups, and so lots of self-organising happening. There's already a number of groups in the system, so people are kind of connecting it that way as well. And the groups out there are sort of an interesting variety. Some are locality-based, but also people trying to connect up around specific issues as well. So we've got some topic-based stuff. Lots of really lovely comments about just what it feels like. So people getting very excited. Julie Sheen said it's tough, but reaps the rewards, hold on tight and enjoy the ride. Lots of people talking about wanting to be disruptive, but not troublemakers. And I think that's something that we'll pick up later. Huge energy around the whole notion of the Stealth Care Radical. And I love Jodie Brown, who wants to come back with a grrr. So she's getting all energized about everything. And then some really interesting stuff around the content as you've moved into content. So comments about communities organising and asset-based development work being key to change management, and best to ask for forgiveness and permission. And the lady, I think it's the lady Farai, who works in health and social care, said that working in that environment, you are therefore developing many allies which support courageous change agents and can validate the ideas of those meeting resistance among their own teams. It really resonates with your earlier comments. And some great hints and tips. So use of appreciative inquiries being invaluable to getting away from being stuck on problem identification, and I know we talk about that. Key in all of this, lots and lots and lots of chats about the importance of relationships.
Yeah, brilliant. That's great. So no, thank you, Jenny, and thank you, Liz, for that. And we'll hear some more from you later. And please keep the tweets and the chat coming. So, Pip.
So we'd like to give you a chance really to share even more of your experiences. So just noticing the slide that you can see at the moment, I think we'd love to hear from you, whether you have any personal experience or organizational experience, particularly of the emerging direction and how that's worked for you. So if you'd like to say something, put your hand up and we can unmute you, or please feel free to continue chatting in the chat box, tweeting, and the various other ways that you've been communicating. So any thoughts, any experiences about the emerging direction?
And just see if anybody, if you'd like to put your hand up, would like to say something, we'd love to hear from you. I think we're a bit shy.
There's some applause and some laughter.
That's nice.
Well, while you're thinking about it and while you're feeling shy and not wanting to say anything,
we've got some.
Oh, good,
yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Go on, carry on.
Well, so what I was going to say was that discussing this with a colleague yesterday, we were thinking about a couple of things. One, which was a little bit of caution about the word emotional, and kind of guarding against immediate responses, but thinking really very hard about the emotional connections that we make, and a kind of a recognition of our interconnectedness. We also thought it was quite important to be pretty self-aware, to really notice and be aware of your own particular patterns and perhaps the patterns in your own organization. And being able to step back and see the wood for the trees is probably a very important thing to be able to do. So has that given you a chance to think?
Yeah, so great, and we've got a couple of people that want to, thank you, Pip, we've got a couple of people that want to speak. So can we unmute Julie Rigby, and can we unmute Johan Thor as well? So Julie, you should be able to speak. So let's hear from you. Welcome.
Okay, good morning everybody. I'm just finding this really, really exciting. There's so much energy around this. I don't have a kind of a great deal to say at this point, but other than obviously, well, I work in a strategic clinical network, so networking and bringing people together is absolutely what we're all about. And I think, you know, just the energy in terms of trying to pull different groups together is really, really exciting. So thanks for this.
Yeah, no, that's great, and really appreciate you coming on and saying that. That's great. Johan, can we hear you? I've got you muted at the moment. Can we hear you?
Oh, there we go.
Hi, Johan. That's great. Hi, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you. First of all, I think that this presentation and the slides put together, they are so brilliant in summarizing a lot of deep insights. So congratulations and thank you for that. And so my observation is from also being involved in and watching a number of large-scale quality improvement initiatives, mostly in Sweden, but also elsewhere, that some leaders, I think, have had an intuitive sense that they needed to add the aspect that you list here under the emergent direction. And I've seen many who've done that very successfully, very effectively, without probably sort of knowing that was a clear direction they were going. But it seems to me that it has proven its power in that way, that people have done it intuitively. And what I think this presentation helps us do is to feel more courage in going in that direction, and that it in fact seems to have a lot of promise and be an effective way forward.
Yeah, thank you, and you know, I would really hope that, because I think that lots of people that I know on this call are really great change agents, and like you say, instinctively work in this kind of emerging direction way. And I really hope that part of what might come out of the School for Health and Care Radicals is us recognizing that as radicals, we're not kind of, you know, like slightly oddball maverick people, but actually we're on a crest of a wave of change, you know, that's inevitable. So that's a really great comment. Thank you. So what I'll do now, if that's okay, is I'm actually moving on and being inspired by Johan's comment. You know, disruption has to be the new normal. You know, and Celine Schillinger is a really wonderful global change agent who I follow on Twitter, and she's written about, you know, the role of change agents as positive and constructive disruptors, because we're the people that are questioning the existing ideas. We're opening up new ideas and new potential fields for action. So actually, you know, we're the kind of hope of the future, because we will help our organisations survive and adapt in terms of these new emerging directions. So actually, I think we have to reframe, you know, rather than the kind of difficult, challenging, troublemaking people, you know, we're the hope of the future. And then, yeah, I hope we feel like that more and more. And, you know, what's interesting to me is if we look across the globe, what we see happening is that this change agent movement is growing at an exponential rate. And these kind of self-organized change agent movements, virtual ones, are happening. So I just put 3 here, and again, you know, what I'd recommend you to do is to follow these up, because there are some wonderful connections and some really great resources. So the group that Celine is part of is called Change Agents Worldwide. You know, do you have the backbone, the passion, the conviction to fix the world of work? There's a group called Rebels at Work, and one of the leaders of that is Lois Kelly, and we're going to look at some of her materials shortly. And then a wonderful group called Corporate Rebels United, and one of the things that they've done is a manifesto, a wonderful manifesto for corporate rebels. But you know, it's not just a kind of coincidence that you know, at the same time that we are setting up the School for Health and Care Radicals, that people who are change agents in and around organisations aren't standing back and waiting for the hierarchy to come up with the next change initiative, but are actually getting on and getting organised just like we are. But you know, it's really tough being a change agent, and this slide here says, you know, 50 reasons not to change. And you know, it's very easy to talk about ourselves as part of a glorious global movement, but the reality for most of the people that are taking part in the School for Health and Care Radicals is that life can be very tough. And there are so many reasons not to change that people give. You know, it's too complicated. The people at the top of the organisation won't like that. We tried that before in 1978, and it didn't work then, and it didn't work now. It's too political. They won't fund it. It's too radical. And you know, every one of us, in choosing to be a change agent, in choosing to be somebody that challenges the status quo, we're making a very clear choice. And you know, what happens to heretics, radicals, rebels, or mavericks, like in organisations or not just and around organisations? And so I tried to come up with a slide that, to me, kind of you know, is a kind of picture of what happens to us very often. You know, it's kind of been the case for a very long time, and I found this quote from Machiavelli, who was writing in the 1400s, and he said, "There's nothing more difficult to carry out, nor more doubtful of success, nor more dangerous to handle than to initiate a new order of things. For the reformer," that's us, you know, "has enemies in all those who profit by the old order, and only lukewarm defenders in all those who profit by the new." And I know as a change agent, I feel like that sometimes. And you know, one of the people that we take real inspiration from is Deborah Mayerson. And again, if you go into the study guide, there's access to a lot more of her resources. But you know, she talks about the most successful change agents being the people who can walk this very fine line between difference and fit, being kind of inside and outside, who are able to rock the boat and stay in it. And in a sense, that's what we need to be. We need to be boat rockers. You know, we're courageous. We're able to challenge the status quo because we can see that there's a different way. We're people that can both conform, so be great, you know, very well-behaved, excellent corporate citizens, but rebelling at the same time. But the thing about us is that we are capable of working with others to create success. Actually, our intention, our mission is a really great one. And we're not destructive troublemakers like people see us as sometimes. So what I want to do really quickly is just take you through some of the risks of being a boat rocker from the evidence. And it'd be interesting, you know, how many of you or how many of us have had this experience. So the first risk that we have as boat rockers is that our experience of like being slightly different to other people can be very disempowering. And often we feel, I have to conform, you know, I have to behave and I have to fit in because I've got no other choice. And I think, you know, this can be a really bad thing, because what we end up doing is we have to like surrender, we have to give up part of who we are and silence our commitment and the things that matter to us in order to survive. And I just put a couple of images here. you know, about this. Speak the truth, even if your voice shakes. It's what we have to do. And the second one, we'll get a lot of Gandhi in the School for Health and Care Radicals. I tell you now, he's coming back again in, at the end of this module. You know, to believe in something and not to live it is dishonest. So, you know, we have to find ways of being true to ourselves and live our values as health and care radicals. The second thing that happens is that we end up leaving our organisations. You know, we cannot find a way to be true to our values and commitments and still survive. So let's just have a little vote on this. If you're, because that's certainly happened to me, I've had to leave an organisation. If you're, nobody else can see this, by the way, apart from me, so don't worry about it. But if you're somebody who has actually had to leave a job or leave an organisation because I haven't been able to be true to my values and be the change agent I want to be, if that's happened to you, will you press the raise the hand button? So what we can see there is very, very, very big, actually, most of us it's happened to, yeah? And you know, it really doesn't surprise me. So if we can put our hands down again, really telling. The third thing that happens is that we stridently challenge the status quo in a manner which is increasingly outrageous and self-defeating because we're angry. And what happens? You know, it just confirms what we already know, that we don't belong. So yes, you know, choosing to be a boat rocker, choosing to be a health and care radical isn't an easy life. So let's now go on and think about that and some of the implications of what this means. So I told you earlier about Lois Kelly that runs Rebels at Work, and one of the things that she does very helpfully is that she makes a distinction between being a rebel and a troublemaker. And I mean, we use the word radical, she uses the word rebel. It's basically the same thing. And let's think about this. So if we're rebels or radicals, okay, what do? We're creating, we're trying to do new and better things. We're very aligned with the patient-focused mission of our organisations, or the organisations we connect with. We're passionate people, we're optimistic about the future, we generate energy for change, we attract other people around us, we see possibilities, and we work together, we build alliances with other people. And you know, being a rebel or a radical is very different to being a troublemaker. And a troublemaker is the kind of behaviours that we see. We complain a lot. We're very focused on me, you know, the injustice of my situation, the unfairness of my situation. We're angry about the situation. We're pessimistic and we think the worst in terms of what's going to happen. As a result, we sap the energy of other people, we alienate others, we see problems rather than possibilities, and we end up alone. Now, one of the things I'd say is that very often, you know, we're rebels or radicals, but other people, and often senior leaders, will see us as troublemakers. And the other thing that I see happening quite often is people who start off as really well-intentioned rebels or radicals get treated so badly and have such a bad experience in their organisation that they cross the line to become troublemakers. So what we wanted to do now was just have a little bit of dialogue around this. So I'm going to hand over to Pip.
Hello again. I think once again we'd love to hear from you about your experiences. I think I've noticed some of you in the chat box have talked about some of the challenges of rocking the boat and actually becoming outcasts, falling out of the boat, being cast out of the garden, and so forth. But we would love to hear some of your thoughts around this. So again, raise your hand if you'd like to say anything. Keep chatting in the chat box and tweeting. So any experiences to share?
So we'd love any of you that got an insight around this or an experience around this, like Pip said. We'd love you to put your hand up and say something. Jenny would like to say something.
Yeah, just a quick message for Jodie Brown on tweet. She's saying, but being a radical is often synonymous with troublemaker because of perceptions, not because of our actions.
Yeah, that's very true.
Really, really
great
true.
point. Yeah.
Any other thoughts from anybody?
A couple of really good.
We've got Sabira Mohammed who would like to say something. I'm just going to take her off mute now.
Yeah, great.
Go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, hi, Sabira.
I think it was very interesting that you make that distinction between troublemakers and rebels, and you talked about how sometimes well-intended rebels can become troublemakers. And I just wanted you to sort of elaborate on that.
Yeah. So what happens is people go into, I mean, I've seen it many times, and I've done it as well, and I think many of us do. You know, we start a situation with really, really good intentions and seeing, you know, so many possibilities and opportunities to make positive change that will make a difference for our patients or the people that we're there to care for. And then there are so many, you know, we said 50 reasons not to change. We get in an environment where change is so difficult, where we don't get well supported by our leaders, where people get rewarded for keeping the trains running, not, you know, for being radical thinkers, and you know, it's like a kind of slippery slope. And if as radicals we end up in a situation where we're not well supported, and we end up very alienated from other people, we start getting angry, and we start focusing on ourselves, and we start alienating other people. And I think it's something it's really important to be aware of. And a bit later on in this module, we're going to talk actually about tactics for avoiding that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. No, it's a pleasure, and it's great that you asked your question. Go on, Jenny.
I've got another thing to chip in from Twitter. Richard Kotter saying, rebels are often perceived as troublemakers. It's a fine line, but worth the challenge.
That's a great point, and that's maybe a good point to move on to the next bit of the module. So this is a quote here from Huxley, you know, and basically, like, every new truth begins as a heresy. So, you know, when I mean, just even thinking about things like integrated care, a few years ago, you know, that was heresy, you know, moving care from, you know, a system that's largely focused around specialty care to a model that is around primary and community care. A few years ago, that was heresy. And, you know, so much of what we suggest as health and care radicals is heresy. But the reality is, if we look at the history of organisational change, big things only happen in and around organisations and systems because of heretics and radicals. And, you know, I love this, it makes me laugh so much, you know, this cartoon. Galileo describes his discovery, you know, around seeing planets to the church establishment. And on the one hand, Galileo is like thinking about, wow, this is amazing, I'm learning about craters. You know, the status quo is thinking about how to repress it. And it's what happens to us. And, you know, I think there are some real choices that we can make as health and care radicals. And the first thing I'd say, again, another quote from Huxley, that, you know, in terms of the universe that we're part of, there's really only one part of the universe that we can be certain of improving, and that's ourselves. So, you know, the title of this module is Change Starts With Me. It's very easy to look out there in the environment and say, well, you know, the radiology department needs to change, and the way that the community nurses deal with wound care needs to change, and the payment system needs to change. And there's so many other things out there that we can see that need to change. But actually, change needs to start with us. And one of the sources that we put in the module guide was The Heart Aroused, which is a wonderful book from David White. He's a corporate poet. He actually writes poems for organisations, and he says, I do not think you can really deal with change without a person asking real questions about who they are and how they belong in the world. And we need to do that as health and care radicals. You know, change has to start with us, and we have to ask very deep questions about ourselves. And if we look at the history of large-scale change, if we look at revolutions, whether we're talking about social or political or industrial revolutions or organisational or system transformation, what we see time and time again is the step that comes first before we can change a system or an organisation is personal transformation. It's about, you know, we have to start by transforming ourselves. And I think that many of the issues, or the struggles that we see now in health and care around large-scale change, is that often as leaders we have very big ambitions for large-scale transformational change, but we're trying to do it with the existing mindset. And you know, if we want to play our role as health and care radicals, as agents of change, we have to focus on our own perspective and the ways that we can interact and influence other people. And you know, we're going to come on to this in Module 2 about how I, you know, form communities and build alliances, because the more we can connect with other people, the more we can unleash the amazing reservoir of energy for change, the more our influence and our impact will grow. And it goes back absolutely to that research from you know, the network secrets of the great change agents. The great change agents are able to harness that energy, and that's what we need to be able to do as well. So, what we want to talk about in the rest of this session is 5 things that the evidence tells us about successful boat rockers. And so if we start off, you know, we have to be driven by conviction and values, and people have to see that around us. You know, if we can mobilize other people because we have the same values, we care about the same things, then we see that time and time again. The second thing that we know, okay, really important word, is about a strong sense of self-efficacy. Okay, and if we look at the literature, the evidence base around successful change agents, this term self-efficacy comes up time and time again. Overall, it means that in a given change situation, I believe as a change agent that I'm personally able to create the change. A lot of the thinking around self-efficacy, or the root of the thinking around self-efficacy, comes from a psychologist at Stanford called Albert Bandura, and he describes, in terms of self-efficacy, you know, our ability to act as a change agent is tied to a fundamental belief that it's possible to do so. So if I'm in charge of change and I don't think that actually I can really do it, then the reality is it might not happen. And again, a quote here from Henry Ford: if you think you can or think you can't, you're right. Okay, so and again, just a little bit of the evidence here. There is a positive, significant relationship between the self-efficacy beliefs of a change agent and his or her ability to facilitate change and get good outcomes from change. So in a sense, the extent to which I as a change agent believe that I can lead to change, you know, makes a fundamental difference about whether I actually play my role in achieving that change. So an important point here: what's the difference between self-efficacy and these other kind of self-words like self-esteem, self-belief, self-confidence? Anybody like to have a go in the chat box? What's the difference between self-efficacy and these other kind of self things? Anybody want to have a go? I'll do it. So willing to take a risk. Yeah, absolutely, Christine. Thanks for having a go. Oh, we've got a few coming in now. That's great. So so what are we coming up with here? Self-efficacy, belief in what we do matters, that we can make a change and we will. These are great. It yields results. It's what we do with it. Ability rather than what we feel. These are absolutely in the right direction. Essentially, self-efficacy is very specific. So in this particular change situation that I face, okay, and the specific context I'm in, you know, faced with this context, I believe that I can enable this change. Whereas self-esteem, self-belief, self-confidence are much more general. So we've got this hot dog here saying, "Hey, everybody, I'm awesome," you know, you know, if I think I'm awesome, that's different to self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is in this given context, given set of circumstances. I believe that I can lead the change. So let's go back to this cartoon that we looked at the beginning, where we said in the context of Change Day, and you know, the number one kind of feedback we got from people in terms of, you know, whether or not they got engaged in the change was, do I really have permission? So let's think about this. Okay, what is really going on here? Is the issue one of permission, i.e. I'm in a system that doesn't allow me to do things? Or is it about self-efficacy? I don't believe that, or I don't feel confident that, I don't believe I can do the change. And what I'd say is that very often we think that the issue is a permission one and it's about me and my environment, but actually, it's a combination of the both, but an awful lot of it is about self-efficacy. And if there's one thing that we want to do with the School for Health and Care Radicals is that we want to build self-efficacy. So at that point, we hand over to Pip, who's going to lead our brainstorm.
So again, we would love to hear from you, some of your ideas about how you build self-efficacy. If you've managed to do it yourself, that's fantastic. Please let us know how you've done that. So it's about believing you're doing the right thing. That's one lovely way of thinking about it. The self-belief is really important. Yeah, starting small is good. Definitely not bite off more than you can chew.
Yeah, these are great.
Yeah, lovely. Thinking about getting together with other change makers and working with them to create synergy. Finding followers is wonderful.
Pip, we have Claire Jones who's got a hand raised. So I'll just take Claire.
Yeah, I'll just allow her access. Thank you. Claire, we'd love to hear from you.
Hello everyone, can you hear me?
Hi, Claire.
Hello? Hi, can you hear me? Hi.
Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I think that technology can be a great enabler for this, because we now have the ability to connect with so many people, both people that share our commitment to change within health and care, but more generally with patients and people that help sustain our motivation and make us realise why we're doing it. So I think that building those connections and supporting people to develop those networks, like we talked about before, is a brilliant way to develop self-efficacy.
Yeah, thank you. The connections are so important, aren't they?
Yeah.
Any other ideas? Can-do attitude, that's a nice one. It can be really discouraging when you feel that the world's against you.
We've got Jens Rasmussen, who I'm just going to give access to now. Jens, go ahead.
Hello? Hello, we'd love to hear from you.
I think you're still.
I'm sorry, Claire, I've just muted you again. Jens, you have access now. Can you try and speak, if you're able to?
No, never mind.
So in terms of making those connections, some of the skills that radicals might need to think about are good networking and influencing skills, setting really clear goals, communicating really well, and just kind of being constantly aware of our interconnectedness. But thanks very much for all your thoughts.
Yeah, very good. No, that's great. And do you know, it's interesting, because I've got a little list I prepared earlier, and my list is almost exactly the same as what's appeared in the chat box. So so that's reassuring. So I'll show you my list. Just before I do this, in the Module 1 study guide, we've put quite a few different references and blogs and articles about self-efficacy, and it's something that you might want to look at some more. So I just put 7 tactics here. Okay, so the first thing, and I think, you know, it's going back to that Huxley quote: start with ourselves. You know, invest in our own development as change agents, and take part in modules 2 to 5, because what that helps us to do is to create the condition where, as change agents, success is more likely to happen. Number 2, a number of you said this in the chat box, you know, create change one small step at a time. Number 3, it goes back to this business about system and organisational transformation starts with personal transformation. So let's reframe our thinking. So instead of thinking that a failed attempt is failure, actually it's a learning opportunity. And if we're not certain about something, let's reframe it to be curiosity. the next is like we need to be building change into everything we do. So making the actual process of change and also systematically learning from change, make that routine rather than an exceptional activity. Number 5, it says get social support, and many of you said this in the chat box in the brainstorm. You know, surround yourself by other people who are health and care radicals. And number 6, like learn from the best. So in terms of a particular change process that you're engaged with, you know, who's doing that really well? You know, who can help you with this? And then number 7, get people whose opinions you really value to encourage you. And you know, spend time reflecting on it. And we just put there mentor ? Because you know, one of the reasons that we're setting up the voluntary mentoring program is because one of the best things that you can do as a health and care radical is to spend some time reflecting with an experienced person. So again, we're going to send you some. We're going to send you again the details for getting yourself a mentor. But basically, what we're going to say is email Paul Woodley if you'd like a mentor. But again, that's coming back. Now, I just want to show you a lovely example of some advice for self-efficacy, and this is Jan, who is one of our who is a community nurse and leads one of our regional hubs for NHS Change Day, and last week when we were like finalising the module, this tweet from Joan popped up, and this was his thought of the day. You know, don't be afraid of failure. This is the way to succeed. Don't give up trying. Keep trying. Believe in you. Fantastic self-efficacy. And again, this little diagram that Joan produced as part of the his tweet. You know, what most people think. Win or fail. What great health and care radicals who are self-efficacious think. You know, fail, 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 win. So that takes us to kind of number 2 in the list of 5 things we know about successful boat rockers, and the rest, I think, you know, really come from that and build on that. So we talked about self-efficacy. Number 3, I'm able to join forces with others to create action. As we said, you can't be an effective health and care radical on your own. Number 4, again, tied in with the advice that many of you were saying about self-efficacy. What we see time and time again about successful boat rockers, successful change agents, able to achieve small wins, because it's those small wins that create a sense of hope and possibility, self-efficacy and confidence. And then what we also know about successful boat rockers are we're optimistic and we're positive and we're resilient. And we're much more likely to view obstacles as challenges to overcome. We're getting to towards the end now. Just a few more things to say. Okay, you know, when we look back at history and we think about you know, the change agents that really inspire us. Okay, we see certain behaviours time and time again. Okay, and I just kind of put some examples there of some of the the change agents, the people that changed the world, that truly inspired us. First of all, we don't waste our time and energy blaming and complaining. It's very, very easy to do that. Secondly, we take calculated risks to achieve the outcomes we want. We're courageous and we work with others, but we're calculating it. We're thinking about what we're doing. And now I think is the time for us as a community of health and care radicals to kind of plan steps to keep ourselves moving forward with positive momentum. And that's the kind of spirit of the School for Health and Care Radicals. And we're saying this starts with me. Change starts with me. And I wanted to show you something personal now, because these are 3 things that I try to live. And I don't always do it. But in terms of like my mindset as a change leader, the first one is to assume that everybody's got a noble intention. So even if I think somebody's behaving really badly or inappropriately or being resistant, actually they're starting from a good place. My second point is what we'll be covering in Module 3 when we talk about rolling with resistance. If people are resisting the change that I want them to make, then it's far more likely to be because of their interaction with me or the way that I'm going about the change process than because of their innate character traits. You know, they're not like a psychologically resistant person. This is about bad change processes, and probably bad change processes that I'm part of, not a difficult person. And then number 3 is, however difficult it is, to really try hard not to put labels on people and not to be judgmental, because actually my role as a change agent is about alignment, not judgment. And one of the things I'd get you to reflect on, you know, what are your assumptions? What are the things that you try to live? Okay, so final diagram I want to show you. I really like this diagram because what this is saying is, if we want to be a great change agent, we need to have knowledge of change. And we also need to have skills of change. But it isn't enough. Being a great change agent is not just knowing and doing, but it's about living and being. It's about being a change agent in everything I do, in terms of the way that I operate in the world, how other people see me, the things that I do, my behaviours. But what I'd also say is that you know, again, in terms of self-efficacy, I think that there's some dangers and risks. And what we don't want to do is to boost our self-esteem about being a change agent without boosting our personal knowledge and skills. Because I can be more confident, I'll feel more self-efficacious, but if I haven't got the knowledge and skills to back it up, then it's not going to work. So, yeah, my little bit, I'm going to end with a quote from George Bernard Shaw. And this is kind of cheesy, it's on my office wall. And the kind of context for me is that we have a choice. This is the true joy of life, the being used up for a purpose recognized by yourself as a mighty one. Okay, choosing to be a force of nature instead of a feverish, selfish little clot of ailments and grievances, complaining that the world will not devote itself to making you happy. And I think, you know, we, as health and care radicals, we have that choice. And I know what choice I'm making, and I think that actually most people on this call are making the same one. So, coming to the end of our time now, so I'm going to hand over to Jackie, who's going to kind of set us a challenge around our call to action for this week.
Okay, thank you, Helen. And if it's okay, Helen, I'd just like to just make 5 points, really.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I think really kind of struck me through your presentation. I think the first one was when everybody raised their hand. I really kind of felt that connection right across the whole group. I think the second one was the Gandhi quote, was to believe in something and not live it or be true to it is dishonest. I think that really struck me as well. The third one was that walking the fine line between difference and fit. And then Richard coming in and on Twitter and saying, you know, that it was worth but it's worth challenging. And the fourth one was about a new order of things, and that new order starts with me. It starts with you, and the greatest influence that you can have on anything is on yourself. And I love the example that you gave of Joan that you found this week. And the last point was about self-efficacy and personally able to make that change. And so what we want to do is to call you to action based on all of that rich, fantastic content that we heard today. So this next slide that's up now is really some of the reflections from the content from today. If you were to make a personal pledge for yourself, what would that be? So we really want it to be personal to you. It doesn't have to be one that we have put on here, but we've just given you some examples that you could either choose from or make more personal for yourself. So the first thing that I want to do is to just direct you, so the HTTP code that you've been given on the slide, to change wall to campaign at the end, and you will find the campaign that I've created this morning for the community, this community, and that will stay on the pledge wall until you know, the whole of the modules. So we will build that those community pledges throughout the 5 modules. So if I just repeat that, the the address that's been given in the slide, if you change wall to campaign, you will go straight to our campaign pledge that has been made for the community for health and care radicals.
So Jackie, it's http and then it's changeday.nhs.uk/campaign.
That's right,
yeah.
Thank you. If somebody could put that in the chat box for me, that would be great. So the first one is to reflect on your own role, knowledge, skills as a health and care radical and create an action plan to start with me. And you know, that's really the whole essence of this module, or to discuss the tactics of boat rocking and staying in it with other radicals, or to identify and support others who are at risk of crossing the line from being radical to troublemakers. And I think the whole idea of that and this whole community and all the kind of people who've volunteered to be coaches is that actually this is about supporting each other. You know, it goes back to that, you know, we all raised up, a lot of us raised our hand at that time when Helen talked about, you know, do you identify with this? So we're really looking for it to be a personal pledge. But if you'd like to join one of those, you will have the opportunity after the webinar, and if you use that address, you'll go straight to. So I'd like to call the whole community of radicals today to make a pledge, to invite you to make a pledge, but also to tell 10 other people about the School for Healthcare and Radicals, so we've got more people joining next time. Thank you, and thank you, Helen.
Yes, no, that's great. That's brilliant, Jackie. So we're just coming to the end of our time now, so I want us to do another quick Twitter and chat summary before we hand over to Pip for our reflection questions. So are we going to start, Jenny's going to start in terms of what's happening on Twitter.
Thank you, Helen. So we've had some tweet singing of Rocking the Boat, which I thought you would like.
Yeah.
And then this great sense of we need to show positivity to stay radical. And then lots of individual kind of tweeting, not just of the content from today, but also links, resources and quotes. So I'll make a commitment now that we'll put those into our resources so that we can share them much more widely. Lots of people wanting to get together locally, so showing support virtually, physically, starting to connect through Twitter. And they're loving the process today. So some feedback, Pip, on the brainstorm that was done and the general kind of sense of the call, really good. And someone, you'll be pleased to hear, has just put a Gandhi quote.
Oh, we do like a nice, we do like a Gandhi quote.
We like a Gandhi quote. So be the change you want to see in the world.
Yeah, fantastic.
Oh, and one last one. One last one. A request for badges or T-shirts or something to show that we're radicals for Expo. So I think we can make.
Yeah, I think we can make that happen.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So, Liz, are you there?
Yeah,
Tell us
I'm
what's
here.
happening on chat.
A lot of activity on chat again, which transforms into a number of different themes. So we've got quite a lot of people talking about the role of senior leaders, and so people also asking, are there senior leaders on the call? And some of those people have actually identified themselves, which is terrific. But the real importance of co-creating change, taking the lead, and the importance of the senior leaders to create the sense that they are a safety net. So there's some very practical comments, something about shifting decision-making to the point of most knowledge rather than the point of most authority. And a huge amount of comments around the value of the chat being reigniting for people. So the actual process itself is becoming a supportive mechanism. A number of people put some fairly quite sad comments about what it felt like sometimes and some of their own personal experiences. But what's been really lovely is watching the chat turn to supportive comments, which have become practical and tangible invitations to meet up virtually. So the supporting network is developing. And again, as on Twitter, sorry, on.
Now, isn't that wonderful as well? Because when we talked about self-efficacy, you know, the importance of that, and you know, creating social support, that's absolutely what's been happening on that in that chat process this morning. So, you know, we're thrilled to see that.
And just finally, very quickly, just the same on Twitter. Lots of people are putting some quotes on, and we got a lovely Gandhi quote at the end. People talking about badges, lanyards, T-shirts. And a number of people have said about the speed of the chat, and I just put a comment that it will all be transcribed so people can catch up with people's contact details, etc., etc.
And the other thing, thank you, Liz, that's great. And the other thing I just add really quickly is we don't have to wait till next week for the chat. You know, we can carry on the chat on the website, on the live web forum, and we'll send all the links again in our next email this afternoon. So we're coming to the end of our time together, and you know, this is a learning process, and we wanted to kind of end in the right kind of place mentally. So what we've asked is for Pip to have the last word, and she will have the last word on every module to get us in the right space for learning. So Pip, over to you.
Thank you, Helen. So it's really just a reminder that the learning definitely doesn't stop here. Hopefully it's really just beginning now. So please know that you can join us again on Sunday. There'll be a conference call following this module, so we can follow up on the ideas that you'll have had perhaps between now and then. Then next Wednesday there'll be a tweet chat at 4 o'clock, between 4 and 5 o'clock. That's English time, UK time, Greenwich time. And then next Friday morning, please join us again for Module 2. We really look forward to having your continued energy and support and this amazing community of people that we've already started to form. And so really just to leave you with a few ideas of things to think about. I know that you're all really, really busy people, and this has been a kind of slightly frenetic session, trying to follow the chat and follow the slides and listen, and lots of things going on. So I would love to invite you just maybe to take 5 minutes after we finish this morning and perhaps just write down one thing in response to each of the questions for reflection that you might actually undertake to do. So think about one opportunity that you might take to build your skills and perspectives as a change agent. Think about how you might become more self-efficacious and how you might actually move beyond the skills and knowledge to actually live and be the change, as Gandhi says. Think about perhaps just 1 or 2 people who could help and support you, and don't forget that there are mentors and coaches available. And finally, just give a little bit of thought to some of the implications for the way you work. And I'm guessing by now that you will have realized that that's not only about how you work, but also about how you live your lives. Lovely. So thank you all so much for joining us, and we really look forward to hearing your continued contributions and to building this community.